Hello, and welcome to Blockchange Solidarity, the podcast where we ask what blockchain can do for us. What is blockchain? What is crypto? Could it rescue us from our current dystopia? Come with us as we explore the very real potential to enhance human freedom, and as we delve into the darker side, predicting the Bond-villain potential of this current bleeding edge. Join us, a group of friends, in a pub style, as we discuss the overlaps between this technology and politics, economics, the environment, culture, and sci-fi, to understand for ourselves the seemingly mysterious, futuristic world on our horizon. Bang, bang. Welcome back to Blockchain Solidarity, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again. We are keeping going with our new format. We've got a new round of our hosts on our pods. We've got Pudding, who's on Crypto Dark Pod, and new pod host on Web3 Workers Pod, Dan. Guys, how's it going tonight? Where you're in the world? And what did you have for dinner? Maybe that's an interesting, different question to ask instead of how's the weather. Pudding, what did you have for dinner?
It's I'm in Guatemala, so it's 2:00 in the afternoon. So I haven't had dinner yet, but I had waffles for breakfast.
Oh, yum, yum, yum. But hold on, it's 2:00. Haven't you had lunch?
I literally came here and was like, I'm a little bit hungry. And so right next to me are some chocolate covered walnuts. And I had a bunch of those. I was chewing at the start of last podcast. So.
Is that what that sound was? I thought that was a squirrel. It's just you.
It was just me squirreling some chocolate walnuts.
Love that. Dan, what about you? Where are you at in the world? What did you have for dinner, my friend?
I'm in Liverpool, so I had a homemade Scouse double cheeseburger, bro.
Ooh, yum.
Straight from the Golden Arches. Oh, you mean a more local sort of Liverpool one from the chippy?
My missus made it, bruv.
Ah.
Oh. Homemade, innit, bruv?
Homemade. There we go.
The real deal.
The real deal, yeah. Oh my God, haven't had a homemade burger in too long. Liverpool, for our international listeners, if you don't know Liverpool, it's a city in England that has the most despicable football team on the planet. So there you go. There's a bit of local.
Yeah, Everton. You know what? Like Everton is mainly full of Welsh supporters, as far as I'm aware. But there is also a great team called Liverpool FC with one of the greatest records in English football in terms of medals, awards, goals scored, everything. Absolutely fantastic team. In contrary to the team across towards the Pennines, which is further east. There's a couple of shite teams over there.
So there you go, folks. There's your introduction to Dan, who will be the host of Web3 Workers Pod. I can promise you we will be doing propaganda such as what he did right there, but it will be good propaganda and directed in a good cause, not what he just gave you there, which is all false. Anyway.
Yeah, up the fucking workers, man.
That's one thing we agree on anyway.
Are we talking about the Super Bowl? What's going on here?
Oh, we this is an inside joke. Dan and I, our two teams are the biggest rivalries in England.
I know. My wife's from the UK, so she's a Liverpool fan as well. So.
Oh no. Okay.
Ale.
Manchester is the only way. Anyway, the folks listening are probably like, "Isn't that a crypto podcast?" So let's crack on with that. As you know, folks, we on this new format, we have our hosts on every 3 weeks to talk about just some interesting things that are going on in the world of crypto, or some things not necessarily in the news, but some topics that we feel are important for everyday people. This week, we're going to dive into a bit of both, actually. So let's start off. Let's just crack on. Dan, I wanted to ask you this because you've talked about this before. How difficult, in your opinion, is it for the average person to get a crypto wallet to operate with crypto vis-a-vis a normal bank account in the UK?
Simple answer, very difficult.
That's worrying.
I tried to get my mate on it, and like between me and him, we were talking like, we'll bang at like cut maybe 50 quid maximum on there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he's still got 11 quid sitting there in a wallet that he can't withdraw because he needs to have over a certain amount of money to be able to withdraw, because the transfer fee from wherever it's sitting to his wallet or from the wallet to his account is more than they're allowed to give him. And it makes no sense. Like, in terms of just being something that's easy to access, that is not a thing.
It's just so onerous, isn't it? And it's so disappointing, Pudding, as well, because you think the crypto world should be priding itself and with its whole decentralized aspect, sort of less difficulty to get people into this new decentralized system, right? So it's disappointing, that, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, the thing that I always find funny is almost how difficult it is to use crypto in the first world, because here
Right.
where I'm at in Guatemala, in just this little dinky town that I'm in, San Marcos, here at Lake Atitlan, we've got a crypto ATM. There's probably somewhere in the vein of 10 to 15 locations that accept crypto. We're known at the lake here for this Bitcoin lake thing that has been burgeoning over the last couple years. And so here you actually you can use it, and you can go around and spend it, and it is pretty easy to get money in your wallet. And a lot of people are using the Lightning. A lot of the stores are using Lightning, so we're talking about 0.003% of a service charge for using it. So you can move around very small amounts of money for very, very cheap. And people are, I would not say overwhelmingly using it, but those that know and do have it are using it. It's very, very available and readily around.
And that was a nice segue. And let's bring that out a little bit more. Then we can contrast it against the experience in the first world, as you say, which is just, maybe it isn't as mind blowing as you would initially think. The global south probably, you would think, is probably better at getting this up and going because the current system has worked for them the least. But let's just bring that out a little bit more, just to give the audience and even Dan a bit of a flavor, if you like, of what kind of folks, businesses, local mom and pop shops in Guatemala, in Lake Atitlan, where you are Pudding, that are taking Bitcoin. What kind of shops is it? Because some people might think, oh, I'm sure it's the big corporate stores. It's not. It's the little dudes on the street, right?
It really is. I mean, now you're getting into, like, I don't want to create untruths. So I don't 100% know how many of these how much money is coming into these stores, but some of our smallest little tiendas, they call them here, these little teeny, like, corner markets, they got a big sign, we accept Bitcoin. They've got the signs in the corner. I can't say how much they're getting used or how many people are actually using it, but these very small establishments have it. And then there's a couple of places that are openly and actively pushing it. There's a couple of like cafes that are you can pre-order on from the menu ahead of time via an app, and you can spend the Lightning network. It's all via the Lightning network, and you can go and your food is ready. It's already paid for. I mean, it's quite futuristic in a lot of ways. And I'm telling you, this town is, we're talking about 3,000 inhabitants. And yeah, where's that in London?
Well, exactly. And maybe the more crucial part for the debate, or for the point here, is not necessarily yet how much money is actually flowing through in Bitcoin through these businesses, because that will come in time. Maybe the more crucial question is, how difficult was it to get set up with Bitcoin? I would argue, from what I've seen, it's simple, relatively simple. And is it better for the businesses that are set up, the little mom and pop shops that don't have to put their money in banks that just gouge them with fees, that lend their money out, then go bankrupt and then bail out the banks? We're getting into the big picture now, but the point is it better for them, and has it been relatively easy to get them into it? And then we'll see adoption grow. Would you agree with that it's been relatively simple to get them set up?
Well, so it just takes a couple people being benevolent, would be the word. We have a
peer-to-peer.
We have a gentleman in town who created a Bitcoin ATM, and for foreigners it costs money to get it in and out, but he has a special code for any local. So basically, if any of these small stores receive money in crypto or in Bitcoin or Litecoin, that they can go and they can withdraw for zero fees. So he's in and of himself pushing adoption via this. So you do have a situation where several of us owners and business owners around the town have been giving out small bonuses at bonus time in Lightning Coin, and I encourage people to hold it and save it and wait for the next bull run. But if you need it, this is where you go. And I've been involved with a couple of say crypto meetups that were designed around adoption of the locals, where we showed people how you use the ATM, and we had relative success on both of those. I think both of them had about 20 to 25 local to here in this town come to learn and discover how to use it.
Well, and word spreads from word of mouth and from use, so that will only grow. Dan, let me come back to you. Are you surprised, Dan, that it would? Does it shock you? Does it surprise you that it would be the global south? And it is, because I've been all around in the last few years down there. There's communities everywhere down in the Latin America, Argentina, Brazil, everywhere doing this. Small communities tends to be. Are you surprised, Dan, that it is the global south ahead of the first world that are thinking about this different type of system?
No, not at all, really, because basically a lot of the technology we have here, it has to be adopted by governments here.
Yeah.
Whereas and a lot of the technology creators want governments and infrastructures. They want the old guard to adopt their technology. Whereas the likes of crypto isn't specifically for the big organizations, for the governments. It's for the people. And in the global south, people are looking for ways that they don't have to rely on capitalist structures to be able to get about their daily lives. And that's exactly what's going on down there right now, is that people are finding new ways to use technology that they don't have to buy into the corporations and have the requirements of those corporations. Because the other thing as well is, in the global south, I imagine people are a lot more aware of their data and what they're giving away. Whereas here, in the global north, our whole life is about data, and how much data we give away is just shows how much of a control the structures to which we work for have a control on us. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think we'd all agree that, whilst in the global north, many more of us now distrust these banking, corporate, capitalist, government institutions. It's an interesting trend that we trust them more, although we're trusting them less over the last decade because of the financial crisis. In the global south, it never worked for the people anyway. They've never had a history where it even helped them in any regard. So they've never trusted these centralized institutions. And the other point is, in the global north, the people that trust crypto the most, when you look at the polls and the statistics and the adoption of crypto, it's actually minority communities in the global north, because they have been screwed by the banks. So it's them that tends to be adopting crypto more than say the rich white folk, for example. Let me ask you this, Dan. What amongst because Dan, for everyone listening, Dan's a bit new to crypto, new to blockchain, not necessarily new to tech. But let me ask you this, Dan. What do you hear in your circles? What's the stereotypes? And then, Pudding, you can tell us if you hear any negative stereotypes about crypto, and even some of the circles you're in. Well, what are some of the negative stereotypes that you hear about the crypto blockchain in your circles, Dan?
So basically, it's seen as, there's an underlying right-wing element to it. In political circles, a lot of people think that. No one's really been able to justify it, except for saying that, oh, Joe Rogan's spoken about it, or they talk about like negative YouTubers. I say negative. They talk negatively about YouTubers who, they might not agree with their kind of morals or their stances on things.
Well, it's perfectly legitimate, that too, because a lot of those are like and we would all agree, like there's a lot of YouTubers and speculators and traders who just want new Lamborghinis, you know?
And they're using crypto or a facade of crypto to scam people. So a lot of people are seeing it from that angle. I think the biggest thing here in the UK is like, there's this thing that you get where, and obviously I live in Liverpool where no one reads the Sun newspaper, but it's one of the most sold tabloid newspapers in the UK. Yet does not sell a copy on Merseyside. You can't find it in the shops. I won't go into the whys and everything, but across the UK, people will say, oh, that's all the papers. Don't read the papers. Don't trust the papers. But all they talk about in wherever it is their social settings is what's in the papers. And that's literally where they get their news from. You go to call centres across the UK, people are sitting there scrolling through the Daily Mail, because that's where they get their information from. And it's the same with cryptos, right? Everyone says, like money, they say, don't trust the banks. It's the bankers that messed us up in 2008. Oh yeah, don't trust the banks. But everyone's got a bank account. The majority of bank accounts in the UK are free, so they don't really have to worry about that. They only pay for the charges, which they get a lot of. But if you avoid the charges, which you think you're going to every month, you'll be fine. But you're not fine because you never avoid the charges because you've never got the money. Now with crypto, the banks who you don't trust, no one trusts the banks, no one likes the banks, but they don't allow us to link our bank accounts to a crypto wallet or any type of, like Binance have had a multitude of issues across UK banks over the last couple of years, 3 years I think it is, and that's just made it harder and harder. Like every time I open the Binance app, I'm having to update my passport, or they don't like the verification picture I've used for my passport, and like, so these are the other kind of perceptions that people get when they do maybe go to look into it. They're held back because those same banks that they don't trust have blocked them from being able to access it easily. And then, you move on to the other side. The banks do allow us to send money for free. So why are we going to use crypto where it costs us to send money, or even make that money, be able to use that money in the real world? Because at the moment, it is way easier for me to tap my phone and use my whatever bank I use, a card on my phone on the payment, than it is to somehow try and work out how to pay it in crypto. Because I don't even think my local shops sell the crypto cards anymore, where you could buy the coins, the e-coins or whatever they're called.
He's hit the nail on the head, hasn't he, with this problem pudding? Because we see it even. This is a headache for the crypto world who really care about crypto. That when we see it, that even the centralized sort of finance, Coinbase, they're already in some way doing the bidding of the banks, isn't it? Like they're bending over for the banks, shall we put it this way? Oh, have this documentation for this, for that. They should be making it easier, whereas they're making it more difficult. And oh no, who to blame for that? Maybe we're not able to break out of the banking system quite yet, or I don't know. But you've made this point before, haven't you, Pudding, that we just need to rip the Band-Aid off and just go it alone, and it might be more difficult or whatever at the start, but it's eventually. What do you think about this? This is a problem that Dan's talking about, isn't it? It's putting a lot of people off.
Well, there was an almost a moment when you got to late 2019, 2020, it felt like things were getting easier. Aspects of adoption felt like they were getting easier. And I've really noticed just how we've gone backwards in the last year or so. And it feels like a concerted effort via sort of mainstream systems. This is where it feels like the pressure is coming from, and forcing much more KYC. It's much harder to get crypto in your hand and not identify who you are, whereas it used to be a little bit easier, and there was maybe it was tricky to get it, but it was possible, and those avenues are getting squeezed more and more. And at the end of the day, Coinbase, Binance, it starts to feel like they're really just trying to disrupt into a system to be making money in the system, not maybe for the revolutionary reasons that perhaps some of us are interested in crypto for.
Right, and it's a whole other debate about how we get out of that, how that stops, can it stop? That's another conversation for another day. So let's not even begin it here, but let's alert everyone to that's a problem, and we do need to tackle it. Maybe on the next episode we will. But let's at an adjacent kind of point, whilst we're talking about how sort of current fiat traditional central institutions like banks and state governments that are run, I think we would all agree, for the interests of profit and power. We have the likes of politicians like Elizabeth Warren this week, who's a liberal, who's now created her own wants to develop an anti-crypto army and regulate and choke the lifeblood out of it. And this is just and of course the as we've just discussed, the Coinbases of the world, the Binances of the world will go along with this because they don't want to be completely wiped out. But it's signing your own death warrant, isn't it? So, but here's my question: whilst we have the likes of liberal politicians who can't separate the wheat from the chaff, the bad in crypto, and try and propagate what's actually good, they have no intention to do that. It's all power and profit for these guys. Is it better for politicians, guys? These are my questions. Pudding, we'll go to you first. Is it better for politicians and anyone who's got power in the current system just to stay the hell out of this new system? Don't have an opinion on it. Get out of it. Get out of it. Even if you're pro crypto, just get out of it. You're not, because this is for us. We want to build it from the bottom up. We don't need you in your current system to have an opinion, because more likely than not, it's going to be a crap opinion, and your incentives are power and profit. So we can't trust you anyway. What do you think about that, Pudding?
Well, in a perfect world, that's exactly what, stay out of it. Don't concern yourself. But in the actual world, it's a threat. So, politicians see it as a threat. I mean, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, just that the most people see it as a threat to the overall the receiving of taxes. So I mean, politicians are going to get into this conversation, because if this system is allowed to burgeon on its own and become trustless and not need government doesn't want trustless. Trust us. That's what they need. They need people to be like, oh, it's a big scary world out there. Crypto's scams. But what the truth is they're kind of the scam. We can build our trustless systems and we can go in that direction and we're fine. You can just stay out of it. But if that were to happen, then that is a reduction in power. And what politician is going to be like, oh yeah, sure, have a little bit of my power? Nah.
Yeah, you're absolutely. What's the alternative? I mean, Don, you've been in, and this is the age-old problem, isn't it, guys, with sort of democracy, isn't it? Like, for so long, we've been ruled by elites, maybe forever. Like, little drips of democracy over time. Is it real? Who knows? But, I mean, so many people are scared of real democracy because it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to get together in collective effort, bottom up. It takes time, it takes effort. Dan, you've been in these democratic circles, building these kind of things in the real world. It's tough to do things grassroots, isn't it? So I think a lot of people are just sort of to just go along to get along. They don't see the Faustian bargain again. They settle for a bit of comfort. They don't want to do the hard democracy building, right? It's the same here. Do you see it as well, Dan? It's going to be tough to build bottom-up systems, isn't it? What's your experience?
Yeah, I think especially while, even after, as I mentioned, the financial crash of 2008, and the fact that people in this country and, elsewhere in the world, in the global north, are anti-banks, but they still rely on them so heavily. I've worked in banking, I've worked in the financial sector, and I've done customer service. I've heard the way people, like, how much they need banking to continue, and also how many lies there are out there in banking. Like, we've got to remember that there is loads of regulation, but there is a lot of regulation that we don't have that we still need. And this is the problem in America when we're talking about the Elizabeth Warren. Like, I've read up a little bit about what's going on with her, and basically what she's trying to do is bring in the regulation that we have here in the UK in terms of crypto. Problem I think she's going to face is, hopefully anyway, that the people are going to say, well, if you're going to put this regulation on crypto, we want this regulation and this restriction on banks as well. So they can't do the same thing, because what she's talking about stopping crypto from doing, the banks are in some places already doing. Like, so, you can't just have it for crypto. And hopefully, especially the people from the global south that are using it in the US will be able to educate others on that, and there will be opportunities to educate people on that, and we'll find spaces in the media and new media to be able to educate people on that. So specifically here, there's a little plug for you. But my fear is that what we're going to do is we're going to get to a point where there are so many different types of rules about how crypto can be used across the world that it does just get clogged down and being like not an international product that we can just pick up and use internationally. And maybe it could become like good for localized currencies, but we need to wait and see really what happens there.
It's really interesting. Oh, I can hear my echo. Someone got their speakers on? No? Oh, good. It's gone now. Yeah, I think this is the thing. I think when it comes to regulation, we always see it that it always is in the interests of the bigger guys and always against the smaller guys. You see that everywhere when it's top down. So I think no matter anyone's suspected good intentions or whatever you can pull from it, it always leads in that general direction and always becomes overburdening for the little guy and just lets the big guy get away with everything. And you're right, Dan, like international sort of complex, and then states are overly involved, and then power relations play in. And I think I wanted to ask you, Dan, you're in the UK. Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. He's been more pro-crypto than any Prime Minister. Obviously, he's a conservative politician. That's not good. What do you make of that? Like, how do we, again, this goes back to the question of, I think politicians just need to stay out of this and keep away from crypto and just let the people, the grassroots, decide what it needs to be or what it wants to be. Once politicians get involved, it just becomes toxic.
This is where it comes back to education, in my opinion. It's about how quick we can disseminate information to people about the benefits of it, and to be able to, going back to the last question you asked me in a way, about like the organizing of people, being able to organize people around the protection of crypto, and making sure that the politicians don't have access to it. Because no matter what, if politicians, well, no, it's not about if politicians see something as a threat. If the banks see it as a threat, they will influence politicians to do something. So we have no control over the banks, and we have no real control over the politicians. So our big issue is about how we protect and organize and educate, and they're the really important things we can do in anything that is from the people and of the people. Yes, it can go in the wrong direction. Most definitely, people are getting hold of crypto and doing bad things with it, right? But that's the same with everything. Like, it's down to us to take responsibility. And this goes to a conversation I was actually having earlier. It's about creating a culture of accountability, a culture of responsibility.
Yes.
And while we don't see that in our politicians, if we can encourage it more in our communities, whether they be digital or in real life, that culture of responsibility and culture of accountability means that people will look to the politicians for it and hold them to account. And I want to use a really quick example before I round this up. While Donald Trump was president of the US, international, especially Northern European journalists struggled with this idea that he didn't like to be questioned. He didn't like to have to answer questions. And they made a point about it. They said it's just wild to them that there's these politicians in the world that think they can turn up, say some stuff and walk away and not answer a single question. That is not accountability. That is not journalism. That is not politics, and that is not democracy. And I think that's something that we need to bring into everything that we do. How democratic are we, and what does this say that such a democratic tool in technology is not being accepted by, I would say, the UK and US governments would say that they are the founding members of democracy, the Magna Carta and all of that. But they don't like this democratic structure that allows people access to money. What?
Yeah, exactly. And Pudding and I were just talking with Gary Sheng on an episode for another podcast in the collective, and Pudding, we were just discussing how basically the whole point about decentralized crypto is that there will be many different value systems. If anyone's read David Graeber, this is different. Okay, some people believe in Bitcoin as hard, fast money. Other people, like Gary, myself included, believe this can be many different value sets of money, but it's decided from the bottom up in different communities, and communities can interact in a democratic way about what they treasure as value significant to them, and that's how we build grassroots up and have different sort of interactions of value between each other, not top down and not for the sort of elites and all the rest of it. So this has to be built by the bottom up. It can't be decided from the top down. And even for scams, we were talking with Gary as well about what's the best way for the decentralized people or people around the world in a decentralized way to get together to fund public goods in a decentralized way. Maybe in every Bitcoin transaction, it goes to a public good where we then control let's go after this scam, this typology of scam, and protect the people. But it's not going to come from top down. It's going to come from digital decentralized networks. We don't need the Elizabeth Warrens of the world. Okay, there may be some state level, scammy stuff that you could maybe say is good in the meantime, but it's still pulling us into that candy where we always seek the state protector against, and it's going to kill us in the long term. Let's wrap it up with a final question. Bit of a silly one, away from this serious chat. Pudding, Elon Musk is now in control of Twitter, as we all know. I didn't even see this. I just saw that it happened. He changed the Twitter birds icon to Dogecoin. Did you see this, Pudding? What do you think about Musk and all this Dogecoin? Yeah, I'm done with Musk, and I'm done with Dogecoin.
I mean, I saw it because I saw the Dogecoin pumped. When he did that, there was a I don't know 3 or 4 cent pump. So a lot of people made money. I assume he did as well.
Right? No doubt.
It's all a bit of a joke when one dude can just tweet some bullshit or change an icon and it's affecting markets. I would say that this is probably another enemy of adoption in crypto, because it's just so fucked up. It's a fucked up reality that just somebody has the influence and they can just control the value of a coin through pretty petty realities of just silliness, right?
Is this not centralization, Pudding? How is this not centralization in a different form? It's literally down to one dude.
It's I guess it's not centralization just because he's not owning it, but he's in a centralized position
of power
that influence that is influencing it, right? So I don't know. I keep coming back to the what is there to do? What is there really to do? Whether you're in England or you're here, it's each one of us that believe in these concepts is to try to find as many avenues to use it to help people to get it if we can. From my standpoint here, it's like because of the environment that we're in, the possibility of a small community that is working towards this trustless idea of currency, that we have to push even harder, and we have to aid and provide the use cases for as much as we can as individuals. And probably the rest of it is a bunch of talk, because Binance is going to Binance, and Coinbase is going to Coinbase, and Power is going to Power. And what are we to do as individuals other than just try to be real and try to make real connections, and try to be like, hey, they're on a person to person basis. It's almost like throwing a penny into a wave, but I'd rather be the guy throwing that penny than just letting the wave crash into me. I'll scream into the wave till it knocks me over.
That's the only way to do this, is in local communities around the world, for everyone in the village, town or village or whatever, to walk out of their front door and come together as a community, collective, whatever you want, and build it together through their individual efforts. And all around, you build a local circular economy. It's going to take a while, but that's the only way to do this. Dan, finish us up. What do you think of this guy, Musk? You done with him as much as I am? Oh, my God. I'm done with this dude, honestly. Oh, my God.
I don't know, like, at the end of the day, like, the guy makes some pretty cool stuff with his cars and the way he works and everything. And I think you're always going to get people who are starstruck by this stuff. People love, like, I was having this conversation about, like, people needing something to, like, kind of focus their life on, or feel, people talk about filling voids in their lives, and people like to have someone to look up to, or to think that they can be like one day. And it comes back to, like, what you were just talking about, communities right there. It's about us, like, creating these people in our own communities. And like, before we had international people and celebrities and stuff, people looked to their community for who was doing good in their community, who was looking after their community, and who's a role model for other younger people in the community and stuff. And that's really what we need to do in terms of this. And sorry to get a bit, well, not sorry. Like, obviously I'm getting a little bit kind of deep on that, but that really is the answer to this whole, like, influencer, I'm a billionaire, or whatever kind of world that we live in. So many young people that I know, they sit there and they're like, yeah, I want to be this, I want to be that. But, like, it's rare when you hear them say things like, I want to change my community, or I want to put money so that other kids can learn, like, having opportunities that I didn't have. It's rare that you hear that kind of stuff nowadays. And I just look back to specifically, like, and to ground us a little bit away from tech, but into the reality of why I get involved in what I get involved in. Like, one guy I know, we were always loud on the bus, and he always said, you lot are always rowdy, you're never going to go nowhere, I'm going to be a doctor. When I was in university studying, I saw in the news and found out that he got stabbed because he ended up getting involved in some stupidness in his area. And, like, I think once we stop focusing on people like Elon Musk, and we start focusing on the good we can use technology for, and the way we can actually change people's lives, and stop trying to change people's bank accounts, specifically rich people's, we can start to stop, we can actually stop young people like my friends getting stabbed and losing his life, and some parents losing their kids. We can change communities so that we end violence, and we can cure illnesses and all that kind of stuff. So that's my view when it comes to people like Musk. Exactly what you said. Yeah, I'm done with them, and this is how I'm done with them.
That's a really powerful vision, alternative vision to exactly that point. Stop focusing on Musk and start focusing on local heroes and role models. What a brilliant way to end. Let's leave it there, guys. Very poignant. I don't know if there's any last comments from anyone, but yeah.
No, I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, it was an enlightening conversation. Nice to meet Dan, and yeah, I feel good. I'm gonna go spend some Lightning coin here in the local community.
Perfect. Well, I'm in the global north, so I can't spend an ounce of crypto anywhere. So yeah, feel privileged to support your community down there. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back again in a few weeks to do the next round of hosts. I think we'll be back with maybe Luke and Claudio again. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for joining, and yeah, enjoy your evenings.
Adios.
Ciao. Take it easy. Bye.